So, you have a tent and a rig, and you love overlanding. You have plans to do it big, on the trails and some super glamping? Want ideas, tips, news, and reviews? A podcast that's first rate and here just for you? You don't have to think about it. Join us and be about it. Something interesting? We want to hear about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints podcast.
Sponsored by Midland, communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by MyMedic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Trail Rated Coffee Company.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hi, my name is Phil from Waypoint Overland, and you're listening to Random Waypoints. All right, so here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Random Waypoints podcast. We'll be doing an episode every week, so like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss an episode. This week, we discuss the current state of electric vehicles for overland travel. On Random List, I list my all-time favorite camp foods. And on Waypoints, I list 10 tips for planning your next overland trip with friends. So stay tuned for the whole show. But first, let's take a look at the news.
During this segment, we'll cover various topics with a connection to overlanding in some way. It could be land use news regarding the national parks or the Bureau of Land Management. We'll keep you up to date on any auto industry news when it pertains to relevant and potential overlanding vehicles. There will be camping and outdoor industry news, as well as photography and video, fishing, hiking, and on and on. Now, here's the news.
The Bronco Wildtrak, which previously was the most off-road ready Bronco from the factory, will be available with a new Haas 3.0 high-performance off-road stability suspension package for the 2022 model year that includes Fox internal bypass dampers. Unlike the Bronco Raptor, which uses 3.1-inch diameter adaptive dampers from Fox, the Bronco Wildtrak uses 2.5-inch units that are also found on the new Ranger Raptor. These dampers are designed for high-speed off-roading and are meant to hold up better over time, as their aluminum bodies shed heat more effectively compared to the standard Wildtrak model's Bilstein dampers that are included in the Sasquatch package. The Bronco Wildtrak rides on 35-inch all-terrain tires compared to the standard 37 inches on the Raptors. Wildtrak models with the Haas 3.0 package also get the Bronco Raptor steering rack, which is derived from the F-150 Raptors, and stronger inner and outer tie rods. The package also includes a rear stabilizer bar. A powder-coated front bumper hides 2 hooks and fog lights, and there's added protection with steel skid plates. The Bronco Wildtrak Haas 3.0 costs $2,505 on top of the Wildtrak's $49,275 starting price. Wednesday, April 6th, Hyundai provided teaser images of its significantly enhanced 2023 Palisade SUV before its global debut at the New York International Auto Show on April 13th at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. From the teaser images, we can see key design elements: a wider cascading grille, vertically connected LED composite lights that frame the grille, and multi-spoke alloy wheels. The reveal of the new 2023 Palisade can be seen on Hyundai's YouTube channel April 13th. There are a lot of people using our great outdoors these days. And according to data posted on the Outdoor Industry Association website, the 2021 Outdoor Participation Trends Report commissioned by the Outdoor Foundation reveals that in 2020, 53% of Americans aged 6 and over participated in outdoor recreation at least once, the highest participation rate on record. 7.1 million more Americans participated in outdoor recreation in 2020 than in the year prior. The year 2021 was another banner year for outdoor participation, And it looks like 2022 will follow that pattern. The repercussions of this outdoor recreation boom have been described by some as bittersweet. Sweet in that it's wonderful that people can enjoy the clean air, the clean skies, and all the outdoors has to offer. Manufacturers of outdoor products have been operating at peak capacity to provide the gear necessary, and the outdoor service industry has been pushed to the extent of its range to make sure everyone gets their gear. The bitter comes from the many first-time outdoor users who don't understand the protocols that keep the outdoors vibrant and protected. There are complaints about littering on the trails and overflowing trash at campsites. Animal harassment has been a problem and has resulted in some being injured. Those of us who have been promoters of the outdoors now realize we have a finite amount of resources, and this additional pressure on these public woods and waters is affecting them in ways we never realized. So, in the short term, it is up to everyone taking to the outdoors to be diligent and treat these open places with the utmost respect. Now, let's discuss the current state of electric vehicles for overland travel. I feel like this is the perfect time for us to have a discussion about overland travel and electric vehicles, because now the two are becoming closer and closer to one another. The cost to have an electric vehicle now is getting very, very close to the cost of what it would be to have a combustion engine vehicle, and the ranges for these vehicles are starting to increase. So the idea of having a what would you call it? A electric vehicle. I'm sorry. The idea of someone having an electric vehicle is financially becoming more of a sensible option. And depending upon the vehicle that you get with these tax credits they've been giving, and certain states are giving their own particular tax exemptions on purchasing these vehicles, this is the perfect time to start at least considering overland travel by electric vehicle. It's something that I'm definitely looking into. The number one thing for me, because I feel like still for the overlander, buying or even considering an electric vehicle as your rig is still a sketchy proposition. No, I grant you that. Because the number one issue is the battery range. That pretty much is the biggest obstacle. And I'd say the next thing, which is correlated with that, is they still haven't worked out battery charge times. There needs to be significant work on charge times before you could do any real big time overland trips, in my opinion. And the other issue, in my estimation, is when are these vehicles actually going to hit showrooms? We have a few that are in showrooms, but the majority of them is just all talk, concept cars, drawings, scale models, and talk. Well, I've decided to look at a lot of the key players and the ones that are more than likely to bring something to market and discuss the status of electric vehicles and what options you have. The first one I want to mention is a truck that isn't out yet, but it's from probably the most notable company, and that's Tesla, the Tesla Cybertruck. Now, Tesla is an American electric vehicle and clean energy company based in Austin. And Tesla is one of the world's most valuable companies. It's actually, it has a market capitalization of $1 trillion. So as far as the vehicles actually being produced and the chances of them being good quality is very high in general. But they do have some issues. One is they lack political clout. And this hurts their image as a global brand by not having government backing. It makes a big difference for a global international company to make deals in other countries when they can or cannot say that the current administration backs them. So that's a big hindrance for them moving forward as some of these other companies that I'm going to mention in their situation move forward. The next one I want to talk about is GMC, which is a division of General Motors, but they basically stick with trucks and utility vehicles. And their vehicle is the Hummer EV. Some of the Hummer EVs have already started being delivered, so that's a good thing. GMC has a lot of advantages over a lot of people who are jumping into the electric vehicle situation. And one of the major ones is General Motors manufacturing. And I mean that in more than one way. They have the mechanization to build. And not only that, they have the land in many different countries to retrofit manufacturing plants as electric vehicles become more popular. They don't have to find land and build a building. They just need to retrofit older buildings. So one huge advantage is their manufacturing and their global reach and resources, which as things get bigger and bigger and you require more and more, that global reach and those resources is going to definitely put them in a better situation. Political clout, like how I mentioned about Tesla, Tesla's disadvantage is political clout, but for GMC, it's an advantage. They have clout on both sides of the aisle. So what does that mean? That means favorable rulings for laws, whether it be emissions, whether it be batteries, all types of things, whether it's tax exemptions for the actual company. Not every company gets the same exemptions, and there's always exceptions for certain companies, especially when you get to this level of business. So it could make or break a company what type of tax exemptions that the government is to afford them. And then for us, it can make the difference on whether or not they're able to offer tax credits. In case you don't know, not every single electric vehicle is tax exempt. Has tax credits coming. So that's something, one, for you to pay attention to, but for you to also know that bigger companies that have political clout, it's a better chance that their vehicles will have tax credits, maybe even a second or third year after the initial purchase is being discussed. So for instance, if you bought a vehicle, they're talking about that you might not just get the tax credit for that first year, but in your second year and your third year, you might get an additional tax credit in the future. So we'll see how that plays out. And if it does play out, like I said, it's not going to be every vehicle, and more than likely, it's going to be the big players, and more than likely, it's going to be American manufacturers. The other advantage for GMC is it's got big pockets. It's financially sound. They've got lots of money in their coffers, and they've got plenty of global assets. So that puts them in a very good situation here. The next company that I want to get into is Ford Motor Company, who we all know is headquartered in Dearborn, Michigan, started by Henry Ford. And their vehicle is the F-150 Lightning, and it's scheduled to roll out this spring. It's coming soon. It's a vehicle that I'm considering. And the advantages it has are very similar to GMC's in that Ford created modern day manufacturing. They created the assembly line, and their manufacturing is second to none as far as major corporations. They also have the same global reach and resources. They actually may have some more global reach and resources. They have historically been in different countries. So they already have that name, imprint, and brand to work off of. And again, they're financially sound. They've got lots of money in their coffers and global assets. The next one is interesting to me, and that's Rivian. They created the R1T and the R1S. And Rivian is an electric motor company that started in 2009. And a very interesting thing that I want to mention is Ford invested $1.2 billion. I mentioned this in the news, but I want to mention this again. Ford has invested a total of $1.2 billion in Rivian since 2019. And it has a 12% stake that was valued at more than $10 billion in early December. So hold on to that thought, and we're going to come back to that later. I just want you to keep that in your mind. Another interesting note about Rivian is early on, when they were still trying to get their money right and get this thing off the road, Amazon made a big announcement that they were buying 100,000 electric delivery vans. And this gave them like a really big boost. It gave them a 2-day surge in the stock exchange, which really helped them. Some other people jumped on board because of this news, but then they came right back, and Amazon announced that they weren't going to go with them and go with another company. But they had already gotten all the positives out of the news of them being aligned together. Rivian's CEO said that as of March 8th, the company has made 2,425 vehicles since the start of production. So that's a very, very good thing. They're ahead of a lot of vehicle companies when it comes to that. The next one I want to talk about is Alpha Motor Company, which is based in Irvine, California, and was founded in 2020. And their vehicle is the Super Wolf. The thing about the Super Wolf is, I want to pull something up real quick, so bear with me. And I want you guys to Google Alpha Motor Corporation and look at their Wolf and their Super Wolf vehicles. And the reason why I want you to look at them is because out of all the vehicles, I think it's the most uniquely designed vehicles. I think from the factory, if they ever come out, they are some of the best choices as far as options for overland travel. All types of racks and rails and compartments and stuff specifically for an outdoor person. And these vehicles seem like that's their number one purpose, is for off-roaders and for overland travelers. I don't know much about their finances, so I'm going to move on to the next one, which is kind of interesting, and that's Hercules Electric Mobility, and their vehicle is the Hercules Alpha. Hercules Vehicles was founded in Detroit on December 26, 2018. And the biggest news with them is that they signed a big deal with Pininfarina, which is a design company, to design its upcoming pickup truck. And the Hercules vehicle claims that the Alpha pickup will be available later this year, 2022. Now, most of you have probably never heard of this vehicle, and you're like, how are they going to pop up with a vehicle later this year? And I do have some doubts. I'm skeptical, but from what I have learned about this company, if anybody's able to do it, it may be them. And the reason is because of the specs of their vehicle. Another company I want to go into is Atlas Motor Vehicles. They are making the Atlas XT and the XP, and these are pickups. It's currently a private company, and from my research, they are very financially strong, and they have hopes that their XP electric work truck will go into production in 2022. Now, this is another company that I think has a very good, strong possibility of being successful and doing what they say. And I'm going to read this to you. This is the reason. Atlas Motor Company announced the signing of a collaborative agreement with a U.S. military supplier who basically retrofit the Hummers for the military. So that's a big deal. That's a lot of money that's being infused into this company. And it sets them up for being a prestige brand because they're working with the Hummer. Another reason why I have hopes for this vehicle is because it's based off of the 500-mile range electric Atlas XT pickup. So if they can actually do 500 mile, if they can do 400-mile range, they'll be at the top of the heap. And if they can hit that number, and from the videos that I've watched, the research that I've done, they say that they don't have any problem doing that. They even say that they've solved the charging times issue and trimmed it down, I think, to 10 or 15 minutes or something like that. So this is a company that I'm going to stay tuned for, but it's all smoke and mirrors until they deliver them, in my opinion. But like I said, them having this connection with the U.S. Department of Defense and retrofitting Hummers, I think it puts them in a very strong position. If you know the history of businesses in America, the biggest ones, the ones that have done well, have aligned themselves with the government, and more specifically, aligned themselves with the military, whether it's supplying food, vehicles, whatever it may be. The next vehicle I want to talk about is the Bollinger Motors Company and their B1 and their B2 SUV and pickup. Bollinger Motors was founded in 2014, and in 2017 they announced that they were going to create this electric SUV called the B1, and that it would be soon joined by a pickup truck version of it called the B2. Now, these were supposed to be due in 2019, but the company failed to find a production partner in time, and they pushed the B2 launch date back to 2021. So Bollinger Motors announced in January that it'll be postponing the start of its consumer truck business, which was originally supposed to go into production in 2022 with an unnamed manufacturing partner. So it looks like it's over for Bollinger Motors, but we'll stay tuned. I'll keep you posted on it, but they're on the bottom of my list. So these are the big players, in my opinion, the ones who possibly may make it. They may not be doing well now, but I can see them doing well in the future. One thing I want to note is only 2 companies that I mentioned have actually delivered vehicles so far. Only 2 of them are considered financially volatile. And there are even more companies out there that I didn't mention. And the reason is because some of them are just written plans, patents, drawings, concept models. And you might say, well, some of the ones you mentioned, that's the case. Well, I picked the cream of the crop of those and I gave them to you. Some of them are just a joke. And what I'm just starting to figure out about what's going on now is what happens in all business. Business has changed a lot. I call it the buy me game. The business model for most new businesses right now is not to become a long-term profitable business. I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes that's not even one of their goals. The goal is to create enough interest and fanfare about what they're doing and the potential it has for the future. That's it for most of them. Their hope is to cash in with a high opening IPO. And these initial public offerings, pretty much most companies that do an IPO or initial public offerings, they usually do real well at these IPOs. So there's an incentive to do whatever you can to make more money on these IPOs. Like I said, a lot of these companies are not even looking to be long-term or even in existence. So they're looking for how much money we can get in the beginning. So a lot of these companies, instead of focusing on the tech, they look more for having a charismatic CEO, one who knows how to use social media and is on social media all the time. They work on putting positive stories out on Bloomberg News or on CNN or Fox or whatever. They do all of these things to hype things up, to propel an IPO to some crazy numbers. But they're not looking to do it to take that money and actually put it in the research and development, work out a deal with the manufacturer. They just want that cash infusion. And some business goals is to be bought up by a big company or get an infusion of money from investors or a hedge fund. So now I'm going to bring you back full circle I kept mentioning to you about Ford investing all that money into Rivian and having a 12% stake. They're an example of this, where a company invests or purchases a company. Now, you may be wondering, is that good or is that bad? Well, I think that history can paint a picture for us. A good example is Microsoft. Years ago, they invested in Apple similarly. And the two have been your only choice pretty much ever since. And there are countless more examples throughout history where this is done. And when you get to the final outcome, those companies are usually the ones still around. And as far as companies that go with private investors like hedge funds, as far as hedge funds are involved, you have to understand that by definition, a hedge fund is going to be a limited partnership investor that uses high-risk methods such as borrowed money, and their only hope is to realize large capital gains. So the success of the business is not their priority. Matter of fact, they're not supposed to make it their priority if they're doing their job. All they're trying to do is turn over dollars. It has nothing to do with keeping a business running. And some of these companies have hedge funds behind them. So that's a big fear factor I have for companies like that. Do your own homework on which ones those are. So I want to give some advice to any of you out there who are considering your next vehicle being an electric vehicle. I'm going to do it. I'm looking forward to it. But I think there's some cautionary things that you should take into consideration. One is, don't put down a deposit over $200. And I also, not just don't put more than $200, read what you're agreeing to in these reservations that you're making. What's happening is people are finding out after the fact that the reservation, it just holds a vehicle. The money doesn't go toward the cost of the vehicle. That's one. And it's not every one. So you need to do this research for whatever vehicle you're interested in. But a lot of them, the deposit or the reservation money has nothing to do with the cost. You're just giving them money to reserve the vehicle. Some companies have shut down and it costs too much litigation to get a few $100 back, and people just lost their money. So this is why I'm saying don't rush to be giving your money for these reservations, and it's not going to the cost of your vehicle. My best advice is don't do no deposits. Wait till they're in showrooms. And even better advice, I feel, this is my opinion, but I feel like the best advice is to give the vehicle you're interested in at least 12 months on the road before you make that decision and you put your money down. This will give you the opportunity to find out about recalls, what those recalls were over the course of the year, what issues it had, what updates they did to it. And then they usually come out with that next edition. And the next edition is going to usually be laden with improvements and updates. So my advice is don't be a guinea pig with that first vehicle. That first vehicle is a beta. You're actually a beta. You paid to be a beta tester of the vehicle, in my opinion. So I just feel like it's never good to buy the first of any technology these days, because that's what they do now. They don't work out every little issue with things anymore. They use you as the beta tester on it, and then they make the improvements. I'd rather buy what I want. So my thing is, wait, don't go for the first edition. Go for the next edition. Now, I spoke a little bit about that I'm interested in purchasing an electric vehicle, and you might be wondering what vehicles I have in mind. And I've chopped it down to two, and the two are the Rivian, both vehicles, the pickup and the SUV. And the third one is the Ford F-150 Lightning. And the way I got down to those vehicles is basically specs and brand. As far as the specs, what was important to me was It had a decent range where I could actually maybe I'd have a problem keeping it charged up, but when it is charged up, I could go a pretty decent amount. So range was very important. Even though I don't tow anything, towing capacity was important to me, because towing capacity, to me, it correlates with off-road performance and what your axles can do off-road. So that was important to me. And then a huge thing also was battery charge times. They're all horrific. I almost had to just not consider that. And that's another reason, going back to why I don't believe in the first edition, I believe in the next edition. Because I believe all these vehicles, once they come out, they're going to come right back out the next year with another edition with a significantly larger battery range. I could be wrong, but I've played that game almost all my life, and it's usually worked out for me. I mentioned that the other thing that was important to me was the brand itself, its affiliations, and its finances. That's why I listed those things about those companies, because with this electric vehicle game, especially for overland vehicles, for these trucks, the brand, who they're affiliated with, what kind of resources, what kind of finances they have, is going to play a large, large part on whether they get the vehicles out, whether they're able to maintain the vehicles. So that was very important to me. And then another thing, I didn't write it down, but charging network infrastructures. How extensive do they cater to those going into remote locations? And this also relates back to political clout to get it done on a basic infrastructure level. Who do you think is going to have the first chargers near a national park? It's going to be one of the companies that has political clout that can get something moved forward. So the charging network is a big deal in many different ways. Not just will it charge fast, but is there somewhere to charge? So I'm going to go into what the positives and the negatives are for me in purchasing one of these three vehicles that I chose. So there's the Rivian R1T, and the thing that stuck out to me that made me interested in this vehicle is its towing capacity, 11,000 pounds towing capacity with a 314-mile battery range. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. And the only negative is it's a pickup. And I'll get into why that's a negative in a second. Excuse me. The next one was the Rivian R1S. And the advantage to this one, this was the SUV version. It has a seating capacity of 7, so it's got a lot of room inside. And even though I would be taking the seats out immediately, the 7 seats tells me that it's plenty of room for me to do whatever refabrications that I'm going to do inside the vehicle and how I'm going to set it up for overlanding. And then with the Ford F-150, the thing that sticks out is its battery range. Matter of fact, they just announced last week the EPA for it, and it's 320 miles. Not the best, but I can live with that. And the other is its price. It starts at $39,900. Now, don't lock that number into your head. And the reason I don't want you to lock that number into your head is because pretty much to get a vehicle halfway like what you want it to be, it's going to be nowhere near that cost. Pretty much any upgrade, any package beyond that basic package is going to take you way beyond $39,900. So for 99% of the people interested in buying the F-150, you're not going to be able to get one for $39,900. But that's a great starting price. Now, I mentioned when I was talking about the Rivian that one of the downsides was one of them was a pickup, and this is a pickup also. So I'm not really interested in the pickup, but I am considering it. Because if I go with the pickup version, I'm going to have to consider a camper. That's the route I'm going to go if I get a pickup. I'm going to add a camper. And incidentally, let me tell you some homework I've done and research I've done on this. I've talked to some of the biggest camper makers for these pickup trucks, and two of them I know for a fact, I can't mention because they haven't announced it yet, but two of them for a fact are currently working on the Rivian pickup for a camper, and they're working on the Ford F-150. And there are several other companies that I have heard about that are working on the Ford F-150 as far as a camper. So the reason why I'm open to those two vehicles is because if the campers, I might find a camper that I like. That's basically it. So, and I'll be able to see what comes out because I'm going to give it a year. Another reason to wait a year. I'm going to get to see what kind of campers come out and what their issues are. Another thing that I considered when I chose these was I wanted a vehicle where vendors are creating aftermarket upgrades. Rivian and Ford, Rivian especially, Rivian already has people making stuff for them. And Ford being Ford, there's going to be just naturally a bunch of vendors that work to create things surrounding the Ford F-150. So it's no telling what might be created for these. The Rivian, what it has over the F-150 is, there are a lot of things that you can have done and ordered at the actual manufacturer that makes it pretty much an Overland vehicle right stock. There's nothing really you need to do. You know, most of us, no matter what, we'll figure out stuff we need to do. But you can get an Overland vehicle from Rivian where everything is set up for you. So vendors and aftermarket and upgrades, that was all a big deal to me. And I think that out of all of them, these are the ones that I know for a fact there's going to be that kind of support. Now, there's two other manufacturers that I didn't mention that I think also would be included in that category, and that's Tesla. There's already companies working on stuff for the Cybertruck. I've featured that on other podcasts. And the GMC being another huge American company, there's going to be a large amount of vendors moving toward doing something for the GMC Hummer. So, but I wasn't interested in those two. What else do I want to tell you about? I just want to remind you one more time. If you can hold off for a year after these vehicles are delivered, please do that, because there's going to be a lot of sorry people making bad choices. And if you decide to wait a year, keep up with the recalls and how they're handled. Is there any cost? Pay attention to how people's complaints are about warranties. Just about every one of these vehicles has forums dedicated to it, from owners, people with reservations, people in the industry. Some people even work for these companies. And you'll be able to track how these warranties are being kept up. What's the actual cost of these vehicles? What's the real wear and tear? So with that, I think I've covered pretty much everything I could talk about the electric vehicles and the state that we're in as far as overland travel. I'll keep you posted on other vehicles when I think there's enough significant news about them, and I think that they are actually a vehicle that someone would consider for overlanding. So with that, now it's time for Random Lists.
Random Lists is all about lists Waypoint Overland has created on an array of topics, such as top 5 national parks, top 10 trails in the United States, top 10 fill in the blank. I think you get it. Some lists will be pure fun, and others very informational. But they all will have a connection to overlanding in some way. We're very interested in hearing your suggestions for upcoming lists in the comments. Now, here's our random list.
This week on Random Lists, I give my all-time top favorite camp foods. Let's get started. At number 1, I have bacon. It's eaten as a side dish, used as a central ingredient, or as a flavoring or accent. Everybody cooks bacon in the morning at camp, and it's a classic. The smell wakes everybody up in the morning with a smile. Matter of fact, in a survey conducted by Smithfield, 65% of Americans would support bacon as their national food. Usually, the things I see around camps are bacon and eggs, BLTs. I love Cobb salads, sandwiches, hamburgers, baked potatoes, hot dogs, and even soups. So it covers a lot of things. And if you've never tried this, dip your bacon in chocolate. Trust me. Number 2, hot dogs. This might be the most iconic food at a campsite and campfire. People also love them from street vendors in New York. It's a rite of passage growing up to some people, having their dad take you to a game and having a hot dog. Me, I like to skewer them and cook them at a campfire. Number 3 are s'mores. I think s'mores may be the other most iconic camp food and campfire food. It starts as a kid thing, but you never stop loving them. You can go basic or you can get fancy with all types of marshmallows, dark chocolate, white chocolate, regular graham crackers, or chocolate graham crackers, honey crackers. It goes on and on. Next, I have steaks. Now, steaks are the most common thing I see being prepared at most campsites on the first evening. I think it's some kind of macho thing. People I'm with, strolling through Overland Expo areas and observing others at campgrounds, I see steaks. I love a prime rib cooked by flame. And on an overland trip in the U.S., you'll find many opportunities to buy fresh steaks from butchers and ranchers. Quality sometimes even exceeds USDA standards. Next on my list are tacos. I think the Scottos played a huge part in tacos being so popular. The other thing I see prepared for an evening meal are tacos by a large margin. There's so many toppings, tortillas, meats, and cheeses. So many options. Number 6 are wraps. They have become very popular due to the variety of wraps that you can make. Lots of vegan options, perfect for a quick meal on the trail, and you can drive and eat with them. Number 7, I have the breakfast burrito. This might be the birth child of the taco and the wrap. I love the convenience of a breakfast burrito. You can eat it with one hand, it's quick and easy to prepare, and it tastes awesome. Becoming more and more popular as a breakfast option in the outdoors too. Number 8, I have jerky. Another iconic outdoor food, famous with backpackers, hikers, and overlanders alike. The variety of meats and vegan options are crazy. You can even get wild game meats, you can stick to domestic meats, you can even get seafoods. Every remote place I go, there's someone selling local jerky. Southern Utah, Nevada, Maine, Montana, Alaska. And each one has their own recipe. There's no two alike. Next, I have ramen noodles. Now this can be a quick 5-minute meal that you just boil water and serve, or a much more elegant meal, or something in between. Veggies, seafood, cooked beef, pork, whatever. It's an endless variety of options. I find this to be a staple in the dry boxes of just about every overlander I encounter. At number 10, I have pancakes. Who doesn't like pancakes? I'm sure there's someone, but I've never met them. Not only are pancakes delicious, but when someone makes them for you, it seems like they're doing something special for you. It takes a little effort to make pancakes, especially if made for 3 or 4 people. But the payoff is huge, at least I think. Number 11 is stir fries. Now here's another dish that is shot up in popularity at campsites due to the Timbo Toscado. I'd say over 50% of all meals made on the Scotto are some form of a stir fry. It works well in cast iron skillets, stainless or nonstick skillets too. Lots and lots of healthy recipes, and you never get tired of the same thing all the time because of that. Next, I have chili. Yet another icon on this list of campsites and campfires. Chili, the basic chili, is easy to make, lots of styles, different meats, and lots of vegan options. The vegan options, even meat eaters will enjoy. It's good for warming up on a cool night, and it fills up a large group easily. My suggestion, bring hot dogs or sausages for the next day and have chili dogs. Number 13 is oatmeal. Very popular with the outdoor crowd. This is a healthy option for breakfast. And paired with a jet boil, it may be one of the fastest hot meals you can have. With fruit and syrup options, you have lots of flavors. And you can get local fruit or syrup from farmers markets as you travel along your journey. I highly recommend getting syrup if you're in Maine and Vermont. At 14, I have hamburgers. We actually have delicious vegan options now that compare to real meat. We have options that carnivores will approve. Also, there's so many meat options. Turkey burgers, chicken burgers, bison, ostrich, deer. You got just so many meat options, it's crazy. And there's so many toppings to include from this list. Chili, bacon, and our number 15, eggs. Eggs are similar to bacon in being eaten as a side dish, useful as a central ingredient or as a flavoring or accent. Everyone cooks eggs in the morning at camp, except for those who have dietary reasons. Other than that, it's a classic. Omelets, eggs on a steak, eggs on a burger, eggs on toast, eggs on noodles, eggs on eggs. I have a bonus one for you. And maybe it should have been number 1 on this list instead of not making it at all. And those are MREs, dehydrated meals, and backpacking meals. You know, like Mountain House, Peak, Refuel, Backpacker's Pantry, Ready Wise, Good to Go. Everyone has them in their dry box, and a lot of us eat them for non-emergencies as well. Well, that's my list. Do you agree or disagree? Do you have your own list? Well, share in the comments. Now it's time for Waypoints.
Waypoints. Waypoints will cover all aspects of navigation for the overland traveler. Navigation is the act or practicing of navigating, the method of determining position, course, and distance traveled.
This week on Waypoints, I give 10 tips for planning your first overland event with your friends. Organizing a group of friends for an overlanding trip is a great way to spend quality time together, whether it's a large group of friends, couples, or extended families. I'm going to give you 10 tips for organizing an overlanding trip and ensuring that everyone feels comfortable. We'll use 20 people as an example. The first thing on my list is number 1, team. Possibly the most important component to a successful large trip is having a small group of dedicated friends to plan and execute. You're going to need help gathering the supplies and transporting everything to your campsite. Split up the responsibilities into logical categories. Number 2 on my list is the spreadsheet. I use these often. A spreadsheet helps to keep close track of who's coming so you can calculate quantities. It also is very helpful for figuring out the total cost of food, developing budgets, and keeping to them when you're shopping. You can print out a copy and bring it to the store to check off items and update the cost per item. Usually $40 to $50 per person will be sufficient for food, booze, and campsite. You can scale that however you like, and it will fluctuate depending on your campsite costs or your group size. But $45 each is a good place to start. Number 3, build a campfire. What would camping be without the campfire? It's the gathering place in the evening for cooking and relaxing. So you want to make sure that you have everything you need to make it memorable. That means first, choosing a campground where fires are allowed, having plenty of firewood and proper cooking equipment. Also, but more importantly, supplies for s'mores. Make sure the area has plenty of seating so everyone can stay warm around the fire. At number 4, I have food. You know, feeding 20 or more people for a few days takes a massive quantity of food. But the combined buying power of a large group allows you to provide gourmet meals for a minimal cost. Costco or similar bulk shopping stores are key for savings. You want to focus on simple meals with a smallish number of ingredients. And if you're getting really savvy, try to plan so you can use some of the same ingredients for multiple meals. Dinner is most commonly the meal where everyone eats together. But I've found that lunches and breakfasts are best handled by providing a range of options and letting people assemble and cook for themselves. People's routines, schedules, and tastes vary widely for these 2 meals, so it's good to provide a variety of options from fruit to cold cuts to eggs. Transporting and storing all this food can be a challenge. Small covered trailers or SUVs dedicated to this cause make it easy to keep your pantry protected from squirrels, rain, and insects. Just make sure the guy with the keys doesn't disappear for a few hours in the middle of the day. At number 5, I have pick a memorable location. This is the one for me. Overlanding is about enjoying the journey, and it's about where you are as much as who you're with. It's tough to say no to a beautiful location. For 20 people or more, if you're even somewhat picky in your campsite selection, you need to book in advance. Most federal and California state parks allow you to book 6 months from your arrival date. Popular weekends at the best campsites often book on the same day the reservation becomes available, and cancellation fees are usually pretty minimal, so be proactive. Also, you want to know your group. Now, if your friends are rowdy and will be loud after 10 p.m., which is typically campground quiet hours, you need to consider group sites that aren't part of a larger campground. There are many sites that are fantastic and basically campgrounds unto themselves. Rangers are typically kind, reasonable people and will only come to shut you down if you could be disturbing other parties. Pick your location carefully. I always look at a few things. One is privacy. My friends are rowdy, so I make sure our site is as isolated as can be. And I want proximity to water. I think that's self-explanatory. Why wouldn't you want to be close to a lake or a river? Then there's climate. You need to make sure everyone is aware of and prepares for all weather possibilities. And then amenities. You know, when bringing 20 or so people, you're inevitably going to get some less experienced campers. So make sure your site has bathrooms and running water. For finding and booking your campsite, I use reserveamerica.com and recreation.gov to find and book my sites. Additionally, Google Earth is a great tool for checking out the topography and landscape of these sites once you have a few on your short list. At number 6, I have pool your resources. The nice part about camping with a group is that you can significantly pare down the equipment you'll need. Only one person needs to bring the campfire popcorn popper, the stove, the griddle, stuff like that. And chances are that hardcore overlanders in the group will have extras if someone needs something. At number 7, I have find activities with wide appeal. The larger your group, the more tastes are going to differ. Some people are happy to spend the days in a hammock reading a book or sitting by the edge of a lake with a fishing rod. But you're going to have others who want to tackle the hardest trail or take the kayak for a spin. So try to choose a location that gives people some options. Number 8, give yourself plenty of space. Camping allows you to see some of the most beautiful parts of the country, some of the most remote places. So spread out. No one wants to hear your snoring in the morning or immediately wake up to the sounds of your conversation. Number 9, give everybody responsibility. Just because some of your friends may not have a lot of overlanding experience doesn't mean they can't contribute to the outing. Have someone create a signature cocktail for the weekend. Make sure that alcohol is permitted where you're camping, though. Someone can create a playlist and bring wireless speakers. If you want a more rustic outing, perhaps somebody could bring along kayaks and organize their use, or bring along frisbees, horseshoes, Uno cards, or other games. Who wouldn't want to be in charge of desserts for the weekend? Number 10 is accept people's limitations. While a long overlanding trip or camping may be your favorite thing to do, you got to remember that not everyone feels that way. You get to spend time with your friends in the outdoors, which is the point of it anyway, right? So being in charge of a large trip can be stressful and a lot of work. But if you plan properly and have a good team to execute, you'll find that once at the campsite, everything gets taken care of and you can enjoy yourself along with your guests. A truly successful trip is one where everybody pitches in, has fun, and feels like they were an essential part of something larger than themselves. It's an experience you're helping to facilitate, and doing it well allows your friends to enjoy themselves and each other. They also get to enjoy the wilderness without worry or hardship. Well, that wraps it up for another episode of the podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And with that, I want everybody to stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully I'll see you here or on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.